What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Garbage Time Podcast. In this episode, I have my two brothers from Northwestern, Barret Benson and Isiah Brown. Isiah is currently playing at Weber State, and Barret is playing professionally over in Germany. In this episode, we talk all about transferring. All three of us transferred at different parts of our career. Isiah has transferred twice in his career. And we just talk about what goes into the process from a player's perspective, things that we went through individually, and how it affected us in our careers and even still today. I think this conversation, once again, gives great perspective on something that changes the landscape of college sports and especially college basketball every year. And hopefully you can learn something from today. So if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. So I hope you enjoy it. Continue to take care of yourselves and stay safe out there. I want to talk about how you both ended up at Northwestern. I mean, for me, Barret, I know you were a local guy. I was a local guy. One of those things where it's a school that I expected to get recruited by. I got recruited by Coach Carmody and his staff, and then Collins and his staff, obviously. But for me, it was just more of an opportunity. I viewed it as to play in the Big Ten, to be part of a team to go to the tournament for the first time. Overall, I just felt like it was something that I would be going into and I would feel comfortable. My family would be able to come see me play. I'd be able to go home on the weekends. But more than that, I was able to get what I wanted about an hour away from home. Briefly talk about, for you, Barret, what that was for you. I know last time we talked, I mentioned that I knew you were a big picture guy. I knew that academics played a huge role, not only in you, but your family's influence in your decisions. So give us that process for you, how you ended up at Northwestern.
Yeah, you summarized it pretty well. Those same factors you talked about, close to home, opportunity to do something special, be a part of the first tournament team. Like you talked about the big picture, get a great degree from a top academic school in the country and set up the place for the long term. So those are things that really influenced my decision, as well as having a big opportunity with Alex Ola graduating and having an opening at the 5 spot for potential minute grab coming in my freshman year. So all those things added up, made it a great opportunity.
Isiah, for you, I know you coming from the West Coast. Most guys from your area stayed in your area for school, but for you, you wanted to change that narrative. So for you, did you ever feel like you did that? And was that your main goal when you chose to come to Northwestern?
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, for the both of you guys, it was, comfort and kind of proximity to home and stuff like that was a big factor. I think for me, I was kind of the opposite. It was kind of one of those decisions where I felt like it offered me something that I couldn't get. It was a bigger challenge for me that, could have a bigger payout at the end. So I kind of decided to do something different. And then the big picture stuff as well, I was the same way. I mean, with all of that happening, having an opportunity to be part of the first tournament team. And Bryant was a junior when I was coming in my freshman year. So I felt like I had an opportunity to go and play and contribute to the team right away, but also learn, under somebody that was having a lot of success, obviously getting great education and stuff like that all at the same time. So it was like the best of both worlds kind of situation for me.
And just to briefly go over what, from my perspective, I always felt like Northwestern was a good fit for me for the long term and things like that. But, talking basketball, always wish that I would have got redshirted my freshman year. I feel like I was always a step behind because of that. And not only in my play, but in my development. So I stuck it out because of that big picture, because of, hey, I want to go and get this degree. And, this isn't a 4-year decision. This is a lifetime decision. So that was the main reason I stuck it out. With Isiah, for you, you end up leaving after your sophomore year. So for you, man, and personally, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for Barret, but I know me personally, like I never really felt like with the system that we ran that you were like a perfect fit for that system. At least to maximize your abilities. You know what I mean? Like you could play in the set. I'm not saying you weren't capable, but for you to maximize your potential and reach that next level, I always felt like it really wasn't the right spot for you. So was that like your perspective too, when you finally made a decision, like I'm gonna get out of here? Was it like I gotta find somewhere to maximize like what I want to do as a basketball player?
Yeah, I think from a basketball perspective, that was kind of that was the thing that kind of took it over the edge. And me understanding that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I think initially, I knew it would be a challenge for me. But it was a challenge that I wanted. I wanted to become more efficient. I wanted to, play the game a certain way. Coming out of high school, I just had this reputation as like a high volume scoring kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I knew that there was an opportunity for me to go somewhere and kind of prove and learn at the same time that I could be, whatever that was, steady, be more efficient, be a better defender, those kind of things. And so I knew it was going to challenge me. So I didn't necessarily expect, I didn't walk in thinking that, they're just going to let me play, the same way that I've always been playing or whatever. So I welcome that challenge. That was something that I did, consciously to try to work on those things that I feel like I wasn't as good at yet. I think over the course of, my 2 years, I never really got a chance to develop in that way. And I think that kind of goes back to, like, I didn't have a great relationship with the coaching staff. When I first got there, the first however many games, I was scoring well. And so everybody, it was all good. And I was feeling like, okay, I could kind of find my niche in the rotation here and then maybe trying to work on those other things. And then I had a point in my freshman season where I went cold for a couple games and was struggling a little bit, kind of hit the wall or whatever you want to call it. And kind of from that point, my relationships weren't strong enough with the guys there that I ever kind of found my way all the way out of that. I think, when I ended up leaving, it was just kind of like, I think a culmination of those things, realizing that it wasn't the best fit. I think both from a basketball standpoint and just kind of from, an environment standpoint, it kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't think I'm not supposed to be here. I don't think so. That was definitely tough, but you got to make the best decision for your career at that point.
Barret, you and I transferred at the end of our Northwestern careers, but for you, and a big credit to you, graduating in 3 years, you had the option to graduate transfer without a red shirt, like I did my senior year. Was it one of those things where you consciously graduated in 3 years for that, or did it just happen to where you were about to graduate and then you started to think about it at the end of your Northwestern career, like, I could play a fourth year somewhere else?
Initially, I came in with the idea of, like, I'm coming in, I got a chance to start.
Yeah.
And I envisioned myself as being like, okay, I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to be the man. Like, we all came out of high school thinking, like, that's just not how my path went. So about halfway, I guess my freshman year, we talked about before, I started off not playing much, and then DP got hurt.
Yeah.
And I got an opportunity, and that built my confidence up and kind of created that role for me as, like, an energy guy and a quick come off the bench. I'm going to play hard. I'm going to take a couple of charges, 2 or 4 points, get a couple of rebounds, get the energy going. Bench loves it. I'm smiling. I'm having fun the whole time. And that's something that we needed in that run. And that's what my identity came. And that's kind of like the role that I really bought into heavy for that year, which I needed to.
Right.
But coming in my sophomore year, I kind of fell in love with that role to some extent. You know what I mean? Like, actors, I think of it as an analogy of, like, actors, right? Like, a lot of times actors will have these great performances and you'll always associate the actor with this performance. They had this and this was their character, but, like, that character is also them.
Right.
I didn't differentiate between my role and who I was, like, as an actor, as a player, and as my role. You know what I mean? Like, I allowed myself to simply become the energy guy. I got to a point in my sophomore year where, like, I wasn't having a great season. It wasn't bad, but it was just very average to below average, right?
Yeah.
Talking with mentors and stuff and, like, looking at my situation is like, are you doing everything you can to, like, put yourself in the best position for what's next? And so, like, no, I'm not. So I need to get in the gym more, but I also need to put myself in a position where I have other options towards the end of my career where I can make decisions. The writing on the wall of how my season had gone and kind of what we had a lot of new guys coming in and looking like, all right, what is my best opportunity moving forward? Because I had obtained that life goal that we all talked about.
Right.
I got my degree now. I'm like one course away. By the time we're done with this year, now I can really lock into my basketball goals. So this next decision is strictly basketball based.
Yeah.
So I had to look at it honestly, like, if I stay at Northwestern, is this what's best for me as a basketball player? Is this going to give me the best opportunity to maximize my skill set, to develop my skill set, and to do the things I want to do, which is become a professional basketball player?
Yeah.
And it was a tough decision, but I looked at it rationally as I could and was like, moving on is what I need to do. And it worked out for me.
you felt like who you had to be for the team kind of morphed with who you were, and you couldn't decipher between the two. And I think we all, at some extent, had that experience. Like for me, coming in, I felt like the only way I had Brian McIntosh, I had Scott Lindsey, and I had Trey Demps all ahead of me. So the only way I could differentiate myself from those three was to come on the court and just try to guard the best I could, right? Get on loose balls, take charges, block out, do all the little dirty work. And I think that took me away from who I was as a player. Like eventually, that's just who I became. A defensive player who came in, like did minimal to nothing on offense. And I think we all had that experience in a way. So talk about how hard it was to get out of that, or at least to separate the two, because you always have played with energy. You always have been an enthusiastic guy. But as far as who you wanted to be as a basketball player, just a pure basketball player, when you got to Southern Illinois, was it a process for you, or was it kind of instant? Like, how did that all unfold for you in your graduate year at Southern?
Yeah, it was definitely a process, because you have to think the last time I had played heavy minutes and been a starter and been a go-to guy and had to be a consistent guy that's going to show up every night and be there, like reliable, had been in high school, my senior year of high school.
Right.
And that's when I had been the man, right?
Right.
So I had adjusted my game, like we talked about, to that role of like, all right, I just got to be ready to go. I'm going to get 2 minutes here. All right, go as hard as you can. Boom, energy, da-da-da. But like you said, I've always been a high energy guy. It's just different. That became my sole identity. I had to realize that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a great foundation. A lot of guys don't know how to play with energy and don't know how to play with effort. I think it's a skill, right?
Yeah.
I had to realize that, okay, that's my foundation. That's how, when I show up to Southern Illinois with some freshmen there, and we got other transfers, and we got a new coaching staff, that's how I show this is who I am.
Right.
That's how I show my work ethic. That's how I earn the trust of my teammates. That's how I show, like, all right, like, I'm here. This is what I'm going to do every day for y'all. This is what you're going to get consistently. I'm going to give you heart. I'm going to give you energy. So I had to understand that was the foundation of my identity, but I also had to tap into those other skills. So the whole spring, summer leading into that, skill development stuff. I'm working. I'm expanding my game. That's what I have to be to have success as a player. Right. And that's the foundation. That's who I was solely at Northwestern, but that's not who, that can't be the entirety of my game. I still got to do that while tapping into my skill set like that. And that was a huge challenge for me, is being consistent with that, but also being a leader again, captaining or quarterbacking a locker room where I had been, like my role at Northwestern, I've been like a funny guy in the locker room.
Right.
So that was a challenge for me, because again, just like my identity from high school, like I hadn't been in that role since my senior year, and I got to go to a new school. I got to go meet freshmen coming in, guys that had been there before who are expecting to be leaders in this team as well. And I'm coming in from a different school that haven't been there. They know I have a prior connection with the staff. They might feel some type of way with that. I had to prove myself in that way, and I had to work on that just as much as I had to work on my skills in order to be a good player, but also a good teammate and a good leader there as well.
Isiah, for you, having transferred twice, I think now, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think now you finally found a place where you can excel as a basketball player. You feel like you have control of, your year, your career at this point. How did you break out of that mode? Because last time we talked about how you went through at Grand Canyon, where you had a coach that you were like, this is where I'm going where he's going. And then when he left, you went through that experience. So now at Weber State, how did you navigate that whole process of finding yourself again as a player, while also staying who you were as a person too?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, that I kind of learned through the process, and something that you don't really know before you kind of partake in it, is it takes time to get back to that place. And so I think, initially I think you say, okay, so if I get back in that situation, or if I can just get myself to a position where I got this opportunity, like I'm gonna just be that guy again. Like it's all just gonna come back. You know what I'm saying? After 2 years of, like B said, we all had roles that we tried to fill to get on the floor.
Right.
And none of them were necessary. None of them at all really were like we could choose, or, naturally, we're all kind of naturally playing some kind of other style or some kind of other position or whatever the case may be. Cause it's like, yo, this is the only spot that I could get on the floor. So I got to try to do this. And for you, it was like, you was going to be the best defensive player out of the guards. So that was how you was going to get on the floor. And me, I was like, I just got to score the ball. Like, I got to put the ball in the basket. That's how I can get on the floor. Cause I can't do this better than Jordan, and I ain't doing this better than Bryant. And so I think, my first year, obviously I redshirted. So, I had my whole redshirt year, and taking a redshirt year is tough. That's a long time away from, playing competitively and stuff like that, especially when at the same time you're trying to get your game back and you're trying to like get your confidence back mentally. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're kind of going through this transition process, mentally trying to find myself again. Like, okay, I'm thinking I'm going to get this opportunity to where I can actually maybe, be more of a player that I think is, closer to myself. And then obviously, unfortunately, just kind of a series of unfortunate events for me. I just kind of ended up going through a version of that same kind of thing that I went through at Northwestern my 1 year at Grand Canyon. I never planned on transferring one time, let alone twice.
Right.
So that's already a difficult, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, dang, okay, here I go again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Transferring this time, I had to really sit down and look and see, okay, so I got to make sure this is about as foolproof as it can be, that I'm going to get the opportunity to feel like I could be who I think I am. Playing with the ball in my hands, being a primary decision maker, scoring the basketball, being a leader on my team, quarterbacking my team, all of those things that my entire college career I've been kind of waiting to put out there, and I've been working on kind of behind the scenes or behind closed doors, but have never had the opportunity to really step into. I was going to make sure that I was as prepared as I could ever be to, be that guy again or whatever, or just to prove to myself that I was who I thought I was this whole time. Thankfully, man, I ended up in a situation where, I have a great relationship with my coaching staff, and it was developed just straight over the phone.
Yeah, and that was one of my biggest challenges going from Northwestern to Wright State was, and y'all know me, I've always been a vocal guy. I've always been in that leadership role. And so now here I come, a Big Ten guy playing 4 years in the Big Ten, and I'm coming to the Horizon League they had three guys who were coming back, had either started or played major minutes. And my biggest challenge was learn how to shut up sometimes. And I know for y'all, it was the exact opposite. But what I learned was sometimes you got to be a great follower first. Both of you have mentioned how you had to step into a leadership role. And Barry, you just said, like, you got a film session, you come in, you loud it up already, or you setting that standard. And not to, there's no secret. If anybody has kept up with Northwestern basketball in the last 7 years, there's no secret that Northwestern isn't a system that promotes player development, skill development. It's a system that promotes a system. You know what I mean? Like learning these plays, learning these reads, things like that. So talk about how stepping into those roles forced you to be responsible for your own development, because you might have done it consciously thinking you were setting the standard for the program, for example, Barrett, but subconsciously you were taking control of your own development.
It was huge. Like the thing that I'll talk about and explain it, like you touched on it briefly, how I had to come in there, but I also took control of my development, right? Like when I came in that situation, if I want to be a leader, and Zay talked about it, he studied different people and coming into situations and like, how do you earn your teammates' trust? The simplest answer for me is, bro, it's just work.
Just work, yeah.
Regardless of where you're at, like even I've experienced overseas, like regardless of where you're at, who you're playing, what language you're speaking, whatever it is, people will recognize hard work and like dedication regardless of what it is. You know what I mean? So getting there to SIU, and it's also a credit to the staff that was put together too, right? Coach Mullins, Brian was an assistant, so he was a guy, assistant, and this is his first head coach job.
Yeah.
He was a guy who, still wanted to be in the gym with his players. You know what I mean? Like as a head coach, that's not that typical. And it went from the top and it goes all the way down. and not even down, because it's really like it's an equal. Everyone in our program had like that credibility to be like, hey, like this is what you need to do. That player development was so unique that we have essentially an NBA skills trainer. He'll teach a lot of different things that he's done or he's learned from his coaches. So like the GA and then all the way to strength and conditioning, we get to every day. GAs are in there from sun up to sundown, assistant coaches to head coach, everyone's in the gym.
Right.
We're cycling through workouts. Individuals, we're going through.
Yeah, man, I think, like you said, that was probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest aspects that I learned after leaving Northwestern was that skill development piece. Mm-hmm. How big of a part of, even when I was at GCU, more so focused on than it was, when I was at Northwestern. But, here, like, that's what it's about. Like, this is a haven for skill development. That's like, we're going to go by the numbers. We're going to break down analytically. We're going to watch, you shoot the ball better from this side or that side, and we're going to work on these specific things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it goes back to, like you said, it's a system. And so I think it depends on if you recruit to a system or if you craft your system around the guys that you have.
Right.
And so I think, we didn't have necessarily an opportunity for a whole lot of skill development because it wasn't, that wasn't what was, the importance was put on. We were all kind of, fit into these roles. So, I mean, I know y'all remember like the skill development we used to have was like shots in the plays, in the offense that you would be in. You know what I'm saying? Like everything was like situational. When I got to GCU, my guy right now, he was a video guy at GCU, was the guy that, that I ended up spending, the majority of my time in the gym with. And I think I'm just the kind of person that like gravitates towards like basketball junkie people and somebody that also gravitates towards like having a real interest in me, in my game and belief in me or whatever. Right. And, like you said, we had guards coaches, or whatever at Northwestern, but I never really felt like there was anybody that had like a real interest in my development as a game or really believed in my game to a point where they were like, no, I'm not going to let you not be getting better or not working out because I think you have this potential or whatever. So in college, I didn't really find that till I got to Grand Canyon. And, he's like a brother to me. My boy, Matt Lopez, he was a video coordinator. Mm-hmm. And so he's the guy that watches all the film, you know what I'm saying? So he's watching all my film as they're recruiting me. He's watching all the film as we're playing. And so he's the one that, probably has the best insight on, on my skill set as a player. He just took, a real passion, I guess you could say, into my development as a player. And then when I got to Weaver, it's everybody, like from, from head coach, from Randy Way all the way across the board. Everybody kind of has a specific skill set. And obviously, like, with Dame being here and like the way he works is out of this world. When I decided I was going to come here, and even before I decided I was going to come here, a lot of the reason why, that decision was even easier for me was because of that factor. It was like, yo, these dudes are, we're going through and we're watching synergy. And he's like, yo, we could get this number from 1.2 to 1.4. We got to get you more shots here because this is your better shot. So when we get in the gym, these are the things that we're going to be working on. So now it's like a whole collective effort as opposed to me feeling like, okay, I got to get better at this. I got to get better at that. Right. So it wasn't just like they was telling me, hey, I'm going to give you the opportunity and then I hope you're ready for it. You know what I'm saying? I hope you do what you're supposed to do with it. From day one when I got here, it's ball screen work every day, all the reads, all the shots off the ball screen. Can you make all the reads, all the passes, all the shots? The threes, the middies, get all the way to the rim, finish with both hands. And so over the course of the summer, even when I went home, I had like a game plan. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, so here's the situations that I need to work on the most. Here's the aspects of the game that I need to continue to add to. And, what I'm saying, that player development piece, I think even from when I went to GCU, I got a lot better. That skill development piece, I would probably say, like, if you was going to rank how important those things are to, being a place. So if you're coming out of high school, choosing a college, like fit should be the first thing that you look at. And that second thing should be, is there people there? Is that a program that I'm going to get better at? Are they going to take like a real concerted effort to look at me and be like, okay, yeah, when he leaves here, he's gonna be better in this area, this area, this area, this area. That's gonna make him the
Right.
best possible player that he could be personally.
Right. Is he ready to make some money
And
playing?
that always kind of sounded like a selfish approach to me as a younger player. And then, you know, like I talked about that sense of urgency, like my 5th year, I was like, nah, bro, I can't take I'm asking all the questions that I probably wouldn't have asked as a 19-year-old, as a 20-year-old. Like, hey, do you think I could do this, this, and this? This is how I think I am. Do you believe that for real? And then you know, how are we going to get me to that point? And
how?
Right.
Yeah. Like, that's a, you know what I'm saying? That's like a big, you know, and that was a big step for me personally, because it was like, I don't want to come across like an asshole. To a certain degree, I'm like, all right, I done already been through this twice. That's something that only comes when like you know, you kind of take that control over your own career like that. And I didn't really do that until this year.
That's what's big, because people don't get that, you know, and it kind of perfectly segued into my next question, which was a bit of a change of gears, but talking about transferring in general, right, as a whole. Isiah, when you and I transferred, I don't think too many people were surprised that we left. But Barret, I know you remember, you were like the one that everybody was like, man, this dude leaving? Like, why would he leave? So when kids transfer as an undergrad, you know, you hear like they quit, they gave up, they're too soft, this generation this generation that. But the reason I brought you two on is you both transferred for different reasons. We all transferred for different reasons, but it wasn't because we quit. You know what I mean? And I think in the era that we are in now, players are given so much more control of what they can do. Like even now, like players after this year can transfer and play right away. How would you respond to somebody who's saying those kind of things about transferring in general? When, and don't get me wrong, it's such a saturated thing that there are kids who just get somewhere and quit. You know what I mean? But, you know, for most kids, or I would just say in our experiences, that wasn't the case.
I don't really have anything to say to someone talking like that, to be honest, because like at the end of the day, like you said, there's situations where some kids go somewhere and there are people that just quit. But I think that's true about all things in life, and different generations as well. There's been people that have just been like, this isn't it, I'm quitting. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't just do that for fun. They learned that from somewhere too, right? Every situation is so unique and different. Like even our 3 situations were, even though we were at the same school, Jordan, we left at the same time, Isiah was the year before, all of our situations, they were just so different. There's so much that goes into that decision. Right. And I think people take that, people don't even want to look at that. People, like I'm saying, like this isn't even just like a specific basketball issue. This is just people take narratives that they want and they run with it. But there's like nothing to say, because if you're going to take such a wide topic and every person in between is so unique and there's such variation, there's nothing to tell that person that's going to actually make them believe it, unless they actually experience everything you experienced. They were in those film rooms. They did all the workouts. They felt everything. Like they felt every high and low that you felt, and they sat down and they looked at my pros and cons list, and they were in the room when I had the conversation with my mom, my dad, my brother, my mentors. You know what I mean? Like I had to leave. Like people don't understand. I left like my best friends, like my family that I had made. It's too unique in each situation. It's too deep just for someone to be like, kids these days. You know what I mean? So there's nothing to say.
Like you said, man, it's such a hard. I mean, for me, I can speak for me. I didn't have much of a choice. I had overstayed my welcome by the time I was a senior, so I was gone. But I think for me, it was just like I really wanted to leave. And y'all, I mean, you two know, everything that was going on outside of just being on the court. That I wanted to leave after my sophomore year, and I wanted to leave after my junior year. You know what I mean? I wanted to leave 2 years prior. And going into my toward the end of my junior year was when I got hurt. And it was like, well, now I'm going to get a redshirt year. And now I got the opportunity where I could just think about this. It was still hard hearing the things that I had heard. And when I had finally came to grips with the fact that I was like, I'm gone. I mean, I was at that point in my career, to be completely honest and transparent, I was glad, like, man, I could go somewhere else for a change. But it was still hard. You know what I mean? Like Derek was there still, Vic was there still. So like, it was like, man, I don't know if I really want to lead these dudes. So I ended up doing a red shirt. I even tried to play early in the year, then end up red shirt.
And tried.
Right. So you know what I mean?
Which it might not have been a good idea either.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but people don't know. They didn't see you in the treatment. They didn't see how you were. Like I said, they weren't there, bro.
I think that's important. Yeah, like that's important information for people to know. Like, we want to ask one last question. Like, with you two going to new schools, and I'll start, but just talk about like pros and cons. Like, did you ever wish like, I wish I would have stayed, or I wish I would have left earlier, or I wish I didn't pick this school or whatever. Like for me, when I got to Wright State, and I was, at the time, I was just glad to be playing. You know what I mean? Like you two had a different mindset. I was just glad that I was back healthy. You know what I mean? Like I had a completely different approach, and I wanted to go somewhere where I could play. I could play and be a part of a good program. So the pros obviously was that I had the chance to play. I had the chance to be on a good team. We won the conference. The cons for me was, I think that I made a decision that was kind of what was ingrained in me early on as an undergrad. Like I was thinking more unselfishly. I was thinking more of like being a winner, which I've always prioritized myself in being a winner, but I also could have went somewhere and tried to make a winner too. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that was like I guess if I had to pick a con, it would be that, because I could have approached it a different way. But at the end of the day, I was happy with my decision. So what were like some things that you, I guess, appreciated about the process, and some things that you wish you could have changed from Northwestern to Weber State?
I try to always think about it like when I think about the cons or whatever, like I always try to think those are the reasons why I ended up making this decision in the first place. You know, ultimately because of the things that I learned. I think from a surface level, it's like, the pros were, I think, really obvious, for my freshman year, especially. I mean, that was an incredibly special year, for us, everything from start to finish. That's why I know what it takes to win, and know what a good team looks like, and know how to lead and things like that. So like people ask me all the time, like, do you wish you would have, especially for me, because when I first made a decision to go to Northwestern, everybody was like, what? Like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you go all the way out there? You could have just went to UW, or you could have went to, you could have went here, you could have went there, So I always, especially when I transferred the first time, there was a lot of people that was like, man, I told you should have never went there. Seeing me transfer was like a victory, for them.
Right.
It was justification for, see, you know what I'm saying? You should have stayed or whatever. As when I was first going through it, that was tougher. And I used to think like, man, I should have never went there or something like that. Or I should have, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I should have did this or I should have did that. And I think as I got older, it was like, like I think the only way I would have ended up at Weber is I had to go to Northwestern first. And then I had to have some success, that first year. And then my sophomore year, I had to see everything kind of go, you know what I'm saying? I had to see it all kind of fall, everything crumble and go through these really hard times for, really like, 2.5 years where you're really just like down, like, you know what I'm saying? You hit rock bottom and you stay there. Like, no, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like we all talked about how hard, I still remember how hard it was to actually leave. Like I still remember telling y'all I was leaving. You know what I'm saying? Like that was hard. I sat in the room all day. I didn't know how to tell y'all. And I was out there by myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not close to home. I can't go home. I spent Christmas at Barret house. You know what I'm saying? So like, this is like, I'm out here dolo. So these like, y'all is everything I got at the time. And damn near to this day, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And it didn't have anything to do with basketball. And so I think, if people knew like how difficult that is, or, the intentions, upon going there or whatever like that, like, don't nobody, I don't think goes anywhere planning to transfer. Like that doesn't make sense. So something drastic has to happen for you to be like, man, I gotta leave. And I think even throughout all of that, even throughout like all of them low moments, all of those times where, you know what I'm saying, it was like I said, like the hardest thing I've ever had to do was leave Northwestern. Leave my family and leave my boys and my teammates and everything. Like, I don't think I would have taken the sense of urgency that I did coming to Weber if I didn't have to go through that.
Right.
Because it was like, I'm not doing that again. You know what I'm saying? Or it's like, I done already been through too much. Like it gotta pay off for me at some point.
So The last thing that I want to get from both of you is just briefly, Barry, we'll start with you. If some kid that's watching this, that's going to watch this, that look up to you, that's want to know how to navigate this recruitment, how to make sure they make the best decision for their career. And Isiah, I'm going to ask the same question to you, but if you can give them any piece of advice or something that you learned along the way, or something that you wish you knew when you were 15, 16, 17 years old, what would you tell a kid who's aspiring to be a Division I or a college basketball player or an athlete in general when it comes to making sure they build relationships or navigating being a college player or taking class or whatever it could be? Just briefly, like a minute or less, what would it be that you would pass on to the next generation?
That's tough because even when I was grad transferring as a 21-year-old, it was tough to cut through where all the coaches were telling me again in recruiting because it all sounds so good. I remember being in high school, it's hard to really figure out what's real and not get caught up in the hoopla of like, bro, just being like highly recruited in high school and like all that type of. So I think the biggest thing would be to one, have a big picture of what you want out of this period, where you want to go, where you want basketball to take you, what do you want to get out of it, what do you do afterwards if you have an idea of that, and like how you want to get there to some extent. You know what I mean? Like the steps in between don't have to be clear, but have a general idea of where you want to go.
Right.
The second thing with that, and I think we talked about this too with our decisions, like why we chose the schools where we went. As hard as it is, you have to find the schools that not just want you the most or say that you say that they want you the most, but they need you. And they don't just need you they don't just need you as a freshman. They need you to develop and become better and make that whole everything, the whole program better, make everyone around. You know what I mean? Like that you're needed. You're not just wanted, you're needed. And then you're going to get developed, and not just like every school's going to be like, we're going to develop you. We're going to turn you into who's the best player in your position that went to our school.
Right.
Derek Parton, just like whatever. You know what I mean? Like they're just throw out your position. Best thing, you're like, wait a second. I can't jump. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like so you have to know how. That's why when Zay was talking about like he's talking about, okay, I need to be selfish in this fifth year. Like, how are you going to get me better? That's a question. How? Like, what is our schedule going to be? What are our workouts going to be? How am I going to? What do you see that I need to develop on, and how are we going to do it? Like, get specific. That's the biggest thing.
Don't put yourself in a position where you have to make everything happen for yourself. Because you're at a university where it's like, all right, I don't care if ain't nobody trying to help me or ain't nobody, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to just be so good that whatever. Like, you know, that's a really tough position to put yourself in.
Right.
So when you're in a spot where you're needed, like B said, not only just like, oh, we need you to play right now or we need you right now, but we need you in your career. You know what I'm saying? We need you, what you're going to be as a freshman, as sophomore, as whatever the case may be. And I tell people that now, like, you know, guys that I work out with that's in high school or whatever, like, that coach that's blowing your phone up every day, and he was the first one to come see you, and the one that came to see you in person, and the one that you know what I mean? Like, he's probably the guy that is interested and invested in you the most.
Right.
That might not be the school that might not be your dream school. That might not be the place where you like, that's not the biggest stage or whatever it is. But like the most important thing is you be in a situation where they're like, hey, this is our guy. Like, this is a guy that we needed. This is a guy that, you know, they whatever. Because all, like you said, all the recruiting is going to sound the same. Everybody's going to sound like you're going to be whatever. They're going to tell you whatever you want to hear. It's going to sound great. That school and that coach and that program, that's like, you know, we need you. Not like, we think you'd be a good fit here. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where you want to be. You want to be in a situation where somebody is really, really invested into not only you as a basketball player, but the thing that I found that changed a lot of it for me was like somebody that know you.
Right.
You know where you come from.
That's important too.
Know your family. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that can get on the phone and talk to your mom or your dad. your sister, or like, you know what I'm saying, when your family comes to the game, like they can have, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
a lot of that is stuff that you don't necessarily think about because you don't think it matters. But like that's something I never had until this year. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that like knows my family, or ask me like, yeah, your pop's doing. Pop said he was Like they talk when I don't even be talking. They have their own conversations or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it has anything to do with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't be talking about me or about or whatever. It's just like that relationship that you build with your coach or your assistant coaches or the person that's working you out or whatever the case is, like that's going to make somebody way more invested in you. And that's going to let them know how to coach you and how to treat you on certain days. I think I ran into like when I got into a situation where I was 18, 19, and somebody needed to come put their arm around me and be like, hey, we're going to do this, and this. Yeah. Nobody knew me well enough to know what to say to me.
Hey, man, I noticed the scheduling conflicts was crazy. All three of us on different time zones, but I definitely appreciate y'all taking the time. I don't know what number apartment y'all was, whatever boys.
Section 105. GB.
5.
That's it.
105. You know what I'm saying?
Next mixtape time.
We was 2-something at GB.
2-something GB boys.
GB, you know what I'm saying? On the second floor, GB boys for like on the second floor. But straight off the elevator, you know.
Right. But I definitely appreciate y'all, man, taking the time. I know we're gonna be in touch, but yeah, man, y'all came on here. It's important conversation to be had. So great input, great perspective. I appreciate it.